Right, Dave, in part three, I've spoken to lots of clever people over the course of these interviews, and a lot of them tell us how clever they are, and you can see that they've made a lot of money doing what it is they do, but they don't actually tell us anything much apart from the fact that they're really clever. So when we spoke before, I hope it wasn't because we were at a football match and we'd had a couple of beers, but you said you would tell me and tell us exactly how you would tackle a match, and hopefully in a way that people can emulate what you do. I know they still got to be clever, but tell us how you start from start to finish.
Yeah, well, we must have had a couple of beers, yeah, because I don't remember that. But no, it's each, how people make their money on the markets is each to their own. As I said before, it's important on finding your niche. So for me, it's imperative to do pre-game analysis to get facts and figures. For me, my baseline is goals. So I will use the stats on a game to come up with a goal range, goal spread, whatever you choose to call it. And that is my starting point for the game. So for example, Team A is playing Team B. And my homework deduces that there's going to be between 2 and 3 goals. Now people can say, oh, well, yeah, well done, Dave, most games are between 2 and 3 goals, but I'm just using this as an example. Sometimes my homework will come out with, very low scoring 1 or 2 or 4 to 5 goals. It's just subjective how you come to that. So if I've got a game that I feel will be 2 to 3 goals, so my markets on Betfair would be the lowest one, 2 goals. So I'd be looking at the over 1.5 market and the over 2.5 market for my higher range 3. Now, at the start of a game, I wouldn't want to be entering a over 1.5 goals because the price isn't going to support a long-term profit. Maybe 1.3 at kickoff for over 1.5, dependent on the game. So what I would then look at is the upper figure, 3 goals. So I'd look at the over 2.5 goals. So that may be, a shade under or over evens. So I'd be saying, well, okay, so I could potentially go for my upper figure. But I think it's important to watch how the game starts, how the game unfolds, how the teams are set out. Are they gone into a defensive format? I wouldn't really want to be entering an overs market if they're both very, standoff, like, two boxers just flipping out the occasional jab now and again. If it's very cagey, then I would leave it, because the longer it goes on and goals, obviously you're going to get the better price. Now, it may come to a stage within, hopefully, the first half where that 1.5, over 1.5 price has risen to something where I know from my facts and figures previously, okay, well, if I was to take that price on a regular basis, and the goal arrives, then long term I'm going to make money, but certainly not from the kickoff price, which you just mentioned, 1.3. So let's say, it's a cagey goal, but towards the end of the first half, the shackles come off, it's attacking, the keepers are making saves, the woodwork may have been hit. Right, so, the teams are going for it now. They've identified weaknesses where they can penetrate each other's defences. So I may be in a position where I can open on the over 1.5 market, for example, and let's say the price gets to around about even money. So that's my opening gambit on over 1.5. Now, as soon as I've done that, that will look after itself. I then need to manage that liability. So I'm just going to pick a figure here. Let's say I put £100 into the over 1.5 market at even money. So I stand to win 100 and I stand to lose 100. But I wouldn't just leave it at that, because that's a bet. That's not a trade, it's a bet. So for me, it would be, how do I reduce that liability? And for me, what I would do is I would play with potential profit. Now, there's options on that. And again, it's subjective, what works for you. Now, I could say, well, okay, I stand to win £100. So, you know what, I'll use a percentage of that and put it on let's say 0-0 or 1-0, because the longer that the game stays goalless, those odds will fall. So you're benefiting from the fall in those odds. Your original price is going to go out, and then you could get to a position where it would be, so worst case scenario would be, let's say with, I don't know, 20 minutes to go, there's been no goal. If there was a goal, your trade wouldn't really be paying much. So, but I've reduced my liability. So what I'll do is I'll just cut out, and I may have lost, you know, let's say 40% of my original stake into the market. Now, obviously, what we do want is we want the goal. So ideally, you want to open your overs bet and then a goal, you know, straight away. Lovely when that happens, great, because you're then in a no-lose position, or you certainly should be in a no-lose position. You've then got options. So let's say that you've taken over 1.5 at evens, there's a goal, so that's going to drop down, let's say to, it would, let's say 1.2 for example. So again, you've got options there. You can just remove your liability at 1.2 and leave yourself with a free bet, or you can green up and take a profit. So it's, I hope I've explained that in a way that people can understand. And you know, there'll be far shrewder people than me watching this that's saying, well, yeah, it's quite there's better ways to do it. And if there is and people use them, that's fine, good luck to them. Well, this is what has worked well for me over the years. And it's my benchmark. It's the way that I do things.
Do you have a figure in your mind that you want to win, and then when you can achieve that figure, you win it, and then you just...
I don't have a figure that I want to win. I have a figure that I don't want, that liability will not go any more than that. So once you're in that position, as I've said, if the goal arrives, you can then be aggressive and play up profits, and you can end up with, you know, a really nice figure. But I'm more of managing what I could lose rather than what I could make. I think that's more important to me, is to manage your liability.
Okay, so what sort of figures are we talking about with your personal betting?
Okay, so there's two things. So I'll have a trading bank, and then I'll have the outright bets, the fire and forget bank. Now, for the outright bets, I wouldn't put anywhere near as much money into the market for an outright bet, because it is that. It's a bet. Strike rate's a lot lower. Downturns are a lot higher. You know, and you've got to have a good bank and a good stomach to deal with those downturns. So my main betting bank, initially when I started, I think my very first betting bank, I think I started with, is either £1,000 or £2,000. Now that increased with, you know, as you become more comfortable with what you're doing, and you can see, you have an idea of your returns and where you're going to be, you know, at the end of a season, your confidence grows. And my betting banks now, so I'll bet with a £10,000 betting bank, but I don't put £10,000 into an in-play market. I will put a percentage of that. Now that percentage again is subjective, and that comes with experience and past analysis results, and you know what you feel that you're going to make in a season. So I'll give you an example. So £10,000 betting bank. If you were doing a pre-match, we were talking before about if there's team news, you could be a lot more aggressive and put more of your bank into that market, because the game isn't in play, and the moves aren't going to be, you know, as drastic as if a goal's scored. But you could put, you know, I know people who've put 80-90% of their bank into a pre-match market. In play, it varies on, I would put, you know, 10-15% on a particular market, perhaps the, you know, the goals market that we've just been talking about. and then I'm not really putting any more of my bank onto countering that because I'm playing with potential profit, if that makes sense. So I think in a nutshell, answer to your question, trading bank 10k, which I'm comfortable with now, and I'll stress to anyone who is doing that, and anyone will tell you that is money that if it were to go today or tomorrow, it wouldn't have any impact on, you know, your ability to pay your outgoings, care for your family, etc. You know, I've been in a fortunate position where I've accumulated over the seasons enough to have a decent bank like that. Now there'll be people who say 10k, that's not a lot. People that will use far more than that, but you have to be comfortable with the bank and the money that you're putting in the market, because if you've suddenly been used to trading with a £1,000 bank and then you were trading with, let's say, a £50,000 bank, suddenly you're not going to be in control because you're going to be worried about the fact of the money that you're dealing with. It's all about building up gradually and that you're comfortable with the money that you put in the market and the risk.
Okay, so how long have you been making it pay?
To be honest, make it pay on a regular basis, I'd say the last decade.
Right, so why don't you do it for a living?
Very good question. So I did think about doing it full time. So my current job at the moment, the previous contract that I was on was coming to an end. And I sat down with my wife and we talked about it, and I said, look, you know, I feel that I could make a go of this. And you know, she's always supportive, but there's the worry that you know, I still have a mortgage, I've got a family, and with the current climate, you know, the gambling review, which, you know, heaven knows when the outcome of that will be known and what it will entail. I don't think it will greatly affect exchange players, but I have a plan in place for when I will go full time. But it's a good question, because people will say, well, if you're that good, why don't you do it full time? And the bottom line is, I'm fortunate that I'm in a well-paid job that, you know, provides for my family. And if that safety net was to be pulled away at the moment, with the air of uncertainty about what's happening, you know, with the industry, it's not the right time. There will be a right time for me. I've got a date in my head, and that will be. It's a journey, and that will be the end of, not the end of the journey, but the goal is to trade full time.